We've just taken delivery of a big load of rice straw. This has been delivered to us from one of our neighbours who have got, I think, 4 rai of land, about a couple of acres, and we've bought half their rice straw off them. It's fantastic to use in the garden. And contrary to sort of fairly popular belief, particularly among foreigners in Thailand, this is a product that does not get burnt. It's not something that causes the haze during the burning season because it is so well utilised in a number of different ways. We're buying it to use mainly for mulch on our garden and for composting, and for both of these it is fantastic. Another common use of rice straw is for cattle feed. Every year in Asia, around 600 to 800 million tonnes of rice straw is produced. So you can imagine what would happen if it all just went up in smoke or all went to waste. People are much more creative and practical than that. They'll put it to good use. The lady that was delivering it to us was asking what we were using it for because, we don't have any cattle. Generally, I found a lot of farmers here don't actually make compost, so she was a little bit surprised when I said I was going to be making compost with it and using it to mulch the garden. And sure, if locals are putting in some vegetables, that's always mulched and it's usually rice straw that they're using, but you don't need this much of it for mulching a small garden. But we've got a fair amount of space, and it is really something that we've used every year that we've been here. We've bought some or we've harvested some ourselves, and to be able to put it down on the ground and also to be able to build compost piles with it. I'll layer it with green material and the rice straw and also some buffalo or cow manure, and it breaks down really well and produces some fantastic composts. It's some of our best soil, some of our best vegetable plots here are areas that I've had piles of this compost, the rice straw compost, and once we've used it up, the soil underneath that is just so rich and full of life. It's fabulous for planting in. So the straw, of course, is produced annually as they harvest the rice. It gets threshed. This has all been harvested by hand. This has come from small fields where people have cut it by hand, as our neighbours do, and then they thresh it manually as well. So it's pretty tough, it's pretty hard work, but it yields a good result. Apparently there's about 1 kilo of rice straw for every kilo of grain that they take out as well. Other times farmers are able to use machines to get into the fields. They'll rent a machine or hire someone to come in and cut it, and it depends on the type of machine. Some of the machines will just spit the rice straw out, spread it on the fields, and it will get left there. Other times it's baled up and then sold to buyers who'll use it probably for cattle feed. The way we've bought it, it's been loosely bundled together with a tie around it and just loaded onto the back of the truck, and then they've delivered it here. I've got it stacked up, and I'll make use of a lot of it initially, but there's going to be a pile here for a while that I'll just make good use of as mulch or to build more compost piles as we carry on. Last year I had an excess from our neighbour, and I've put it out onto the area down there at the back of the section where the soil was really bad. And so because I had an excess of it, I thought, well, let's just cover this ground. It was just growing weeds, and so I just sort of placed it around, layered some of it with some buffalo manure, some dry buffalo manure, and I'm very happy with the results of how the soil has just begun to really regenerate. This dirt was like deep under the ground. We'd leveled this area down here to fill in the pond, and so the dirt that's been exposed has never been exposed before, so there's no life in it. So I'm just wanting to build it up and build it up and build it up, and this is why I've also planted our sun hemp down the back as well, which is growing really, really well, and that is going to put so much life. So the combination of some cover crops and some good mulching and maybe some buffalo manure, I'll just keep working on this dirt to put some life back into it so it can become soil that we can grow vegetables or other plants in. I love using the rice straw as mulch. Sometimes I'll cut it into smaller pieces and I'll just place around the vegetable plants and vegetable seedlings more easily. Other times I'll leave it full length and just place it around and just put a really good thick layer of mulch on the ground to protect the soil from the sun, and it also helps to retain the water, and it also helps to stop the water from washing the soil away. And if we get a good mat, if I mix it up and get it so that it's all crisscrossed against each other, it really holds in place very, very well. And it does a great job of suppressing the weeds. I get a really good dense mat of rice straw built up and the weeds just won't grow through it. One thing that does grow through it though is the seeds that are still left on. So there's still some rice grains left on it. When it's threshed, it's not threshed 100%. So this seed does tend to come up. So it's just a matter of cutting it back and trimming it back and just adding it to the mulch. It's all good biomass for the soil. So it does take a bit of work. It's a good bit of energy and sweat involved in spreading this around, but it does such a lot of good for our garden. I'm always happy to receive another load of rice straw. And so I better get to work and start spreading it on my garden.